Welcome to Across the Pitch. Let's get into it. The game ended 1-1 between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, a result that honestly reflects the balance of play, with both teams creating quality chances throughout the 90 minutes. But we need to address the elephant in the room, that penalty decision that has everyone talking. Let's break this down step by step, because it's a perfect example of how modern football's interpretation of rules sometimes overcomplicated what should be straightforward decisions. Yes, there was contact. Nobody's denying that Tchouameni stepped on Lino's foot. But football isn't played in isolated freeze frames. It's a flowing game where context matters enormously. When we look at the complete sequence, what do we see? A ball comes into the box, and neither player actually gets meaningful contact with it. Lino doesn't manage to control it. Tchouameni doesn't clear it. The ball is effectively gone before the contact occurs. This is crucial because we're not talking about a challenge that prevented a playing opportunity. We're talking about purely incidental contact after the fact. What's particularly frustrating here is how VAR has been implemented. The system was introduced to correct clear and obvious errors. That was the mandate. That was the promise to fans and clubs alike. But what we're seeing now is a frame-by-frame dissection of every contact in the box, completely divorced from the context and flow of the game. The referee, who had the best view possible in real time, immediately waved play on. That should tell us something. If you're only showing the stamp in isolation, sure, it looks bad. No argument there. But football isn't played in isolation. When you watch the entire sequence at full speed, it becomes clear that this is just one of those coming together moments that happen dozens of times in every match. The contact, while present, wasn't what prevented any goal-scoring opportunity or meaningful play on the ball. This raises a bigger question about VAR's role in modern football. Are we allowing technology to over-referee the game? When we break down every moment into millisecond snapshots, are we losing sight of what actually constitutes a foul in the context of a flowing football match? The original brief for VAR was to eliminate howlers, the clear handballs, the obvious offsides, the mistaken identities. Instead, we're seeing it used to re-referee moments that fall squarely into the gray area of footballing interpretation. What makes this even more problematic is the inconsistency. We've seen similar or even more significant contact waved away in other matches. Yet here we are, turning this incidental contact into a game-changing moment. This kind of inconsistency in VAR intervention doesn't just affect individual matches. It's creating confusion about what actually constitutes a penalty in modern football. So, while yes, technically there was a stamp, I'm firmly in the camp that says this shouldn't have been a penalty. The contact was there, but in the context of the overall play, it simply doesn't rise to the level of a penalty offense. When we start awarding penalties for every bit of contact that looks bad in slow motion, we're fundamentally changing the nature of the sport. The real tragedy here is that we're talking about VAR instead of what was otherwise an excellent derby match between two sides who both showed why they're among Spain's elite. That's what VAR was supposed to prevent, not encourage. There's a crucial conversation we need to have about Real Madrid's approach to officiating. It's quite telling that this is the first penalty awarded against them all season. But what's more concerning is their players' behavior towards officials. This constant surrounding of referees, the dramatic reactions to every decision, it's becoming a pattern that needs addressing. Take Vinicius Jr., for instance. Brilliant player, absolutely electric on the ball, but his interactions with officials are becoming problematic. Every decision seems to trigger an emotional response, complete with gestures and protests. While passion is part of the game, there's a line between showing emotion and attempting to influence officials, and that line is getting increasingly blurred. But let's shift to the actual football, because what we saw in the second half from Real Madrid was genuinely impressive. After going down to Julian Alvarez's penalty, they showed exactly why they're leading the title race. The intensity ramped up, the pressure mounted, and we saw the Real Madrid that strikes fear into opponents. What's particularly noteworthy is how they managed this with a makeshift defense. Conceding only from a penalty in such circumstances is no small feat. The result has massive implications for the title race, and Barcelona supporters will be absolutely delighted. The standings tell an incredible story. Real Madrid at 50 points, Atletico breathing down their necks with 49, and Barcelona lurking just behind with a potential 48 points if they can overcome Sevilla. It's the kind of three-way title race that La Liga hasn't seen in years. What makes this even more remarkable is how unpredictable it's been. At the start of the season, with Barcelona's financial challenges and Atletico's perceived transition period, few would have predicted such a tight race at this stage. It's a testament to the competitive nature of Spanish football and how quickly narratives can shift in this sport. We're potentially heading into one of the most exciting title runs in recent La Liga history. Every match becomes crucial, every point vital, and every head-to-head encounter could be season-defining. This is the kind of competition that elevates domestic football to another level. Three giants of Spanish football, each with a legitimate shot at the title and none able to afford any significant slip-ups. The first-half performance from Real Madrid was, to put it bluntly, emblematic of a concerning pattern we're seeing in big matches. When facing top opposition, there's an almost predictable lethargy to their first-half displays that's becoming impossible to ignore. It's as if they're playing with the handbrake on, waiting to shift gears in the second half. The game-changing moment perfectly encapsulates both the brilliance and the problems within this Real Madrid side. Rodrygo's intervention, starting from his own box, drawing the foul from Gallon, then capitalizing on the quick free kick. It's exactly the kind of individual brilliance that's been keeping Madrid at the top of the table. But therein lies the crucial issue. This wasn't the result of carefully crafted tactical planning or systematic pressure. It was pure individual quality, a moment of inspiration rather than preparation. What followed was vintage Real Madrid. The momentum shift was palpable, the intensity cranked up, and that familiar feeling settled in that we were watching a potential Real Madrid victory unfold. Vini, who had been largely anonymous, suddenly sparked to life. The woodwork was rattled. The Madrid machine was finally purring, but why does it take 45 minutes plus a goal against to reach this level? This makes Ancelotti's decision to substitute Rodrygo in the 88th minute all the more baffling. Here's a player who's been the catalyst for change, showing positive intent throughout, and with the team desperate for a winner, he's the one who makes way. It's the kind of decision that leaves you scratching your head, especially given Rodrygo's ability to produce moments of magic exactly when they're needed most. The tactical shift from Atletico around the 64th minute marked another crucial turning point. Their decision to settle for a point, dropping into a low block, effectively killed the game's momentum. It exposed another fundamental issue with this Madrid side, their struggle to break down organized, deep-lying defenses. For all their individual talent, there's a notable lack of systematic solutions to this tactical challenge. After Atletico's defensive reorganization, Madrid struggled to create any clear-cut chances, their attack becoming increasingly predictable and easily contained. What's particularly interesting is Atletico's conservative approach in the latter stages. They seemed to sense that holding what they had was preferable to risking it all for 3 points, despite Madrid's obvious vulnerabilities. It's a testament to the respect Madrid still commands, but also perhaps a missed opportunity for Atletico, given how susceptible this Madrid team has shown itself to be. The broader concern for Madrid fans should be the sustainability of this approach. The current formula, absorbing pressure for 45 minutes, relying on individual brilliance to turn games around, and hoping the opposition doesn't fully capitalize on their opportunities, feels like a high-wire act that can't continue indefinitely. While it's working now, as evidenced by their position at the top of La Liga, the lack of a clear tactical identity beyond trust in individual quality is troubling. This isn't just about results, it's about the process. When you analyze how top teams across Europe are playing, there's usually a clear tactical framework, a system that players can fall back on when individual inspiration runs dry. But with Madrid, it often feels like they're operating without this safety net. Yes, they have extraordinary individual talent that can often bail them out. But in the modern game, especially at the highest level, this approach has its limitations. The question becomes particularly pertinent as we look ahead to the business end of the season, especially with Champions League knockout stages approaching. Against Europe's elite, where margins are razor thin and tactical preparation can be the difference between success and failure, can Madrid continue to rely so heavily on individual moments of brilliance? History shows that Real Madrid has a unique ability to find ways to win, but even by their standards, this feels like pushing the boundaries of sustainability. This has been Across the Pitch, over and out.